What's up, everyone? I'm Ethan, and I'm here with my boy Garrett.
What's going on?
And welcome to HIVE Sports, where we talk all things NFL and college football. Today, we're continuing our freshman spotlight series, where we break down our favorite incoming freshman prospects. We got a banger today. G, who are we looking at?
Today we're going to be taking a look at our first five-star incoming freshman prospect. That's going to be Keelon Russell, coming into Alabama as a unanimous consensus five-star recruit, one of the highest rated prospects in the class, regardless of position. So this is a can't miss prospect. Texas 6A football. I mean, he's the guy who put up 4,000 over 4,000 passing yards, 55 touchdowns against four interceptions. And this is at Texas's highest level of high school football, so it's not like he's doing this against lower level comp. But yeah, this kid is really potentially a special player at the next level.
Yeah, G, and as we're pulling the video, I know we've, broken him down a couple times together, but man, he's just one of those long, slender quarterbacks that has a cannon of an arm, athletic. I mean, that ratio, 55 to 4. I don't care. I mean, if you're throwing the ball that many times, you only have four interceptions in Texas football, that speaks to your decision making and your playmaking ability. Um,
Yeah,
Even watching, reading some reports recently too, that like he's in contention. I mean, he's in that three-way battle for that starting job at Alabama, which is exciting to see because they have a pretty talented roster already, and they're bringing in, some a pretty good recruiting class. Obviously, we've broken down, one or two people from that class, so excited to see him get an opportunity to make an impact the next season.
yeah, it's definitely a positive thing that he's already being talked about, in contention for the starting job with guys like Austin Mack, transferring there, and
Yeah,
Ty Simpson also has a lot more experience than him. So I think it speaks volume just his, preparedness and how he's not a guy who's going to take a lot of time to adjust to the next level, I don't think. And the quicker they can get him out there with Ryan Williams and Latsier Brooks and all these other talented players that they have at Alabama, the better, because we want to see those guys on the field together. So let me get these highlights up and going so we can dig in.
and G, he's your QB1, right, of this class?
He is, yeah, it's close between him and Bryce Underwood, but I just think that he's a little bit further along, than Bryce as a passer. Bryce is a great runner of the football, and I think he's flashed some upside as a passer, but Keelan just done it, at a more consistent rate. I mean, 55 passing touchdowns as a senior. That shows me a guy who's going to be, jumping in as a college quarterback and putting up big
100%.
numbers right away. So let's get this started.
I mean, I know from the very beginning, everybody's going to be talking about his frame, 6'4", 190. But I mean, that's why they got, the best nutritionists in the world, right? To put on 20, 25 pounds before he's, turns 19, turns 20. He's still a teenager who's not even fully developed, so
Yeah.
that's the easiest thing for them to do at the SEC is to put some weight on some guys, right?
Yeah, and he's got the frame, right? He's 6'4", so it's not like, it's not like the height is a problem. So if he can bulk up a little bit, which I'm sure he will, he'll be just fine.
100%.
You
One
can
thing I like
see this
pointing out
Duncan.
too.
I just want to point out real quick, man. This Duncanville team was just disgustingly loaded because you had Keelan Russell and Corian Moore on the same high school team, man. And I mean, two of the top guys at their position in the country on the same team.
One thing I like about Keelan Russell too is he's got that like that snap effect to his ball. That like Lamar Jackson kind of flick of the wrist where the ball comes out quick, comes out tight. Definitely
Yeah.
has. You can definitely tell even those that pass right there. He's not putting a ton of zip on. Like he's just he has so much more to give, which is important when you're talking about having to put the ball in tight windows at the next level.
Oh yeah, 100%. You can see his mobility and his ability to throw on the run is just what makes
And that
him
arm
really
slot too.
special.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
arm slot too is unique. I mean, the fact that he's able to get that ball off kind of full speed to the right is impressive.
Yeah, the off-platform throws are pretty nice with him. He's got some touch on the ball too, which I think kind of sets him apart from some other guys who are just rifling in the ball, every
Totally.
throw. He can kind of layer the ball and put some texture on it when he needs to.
100%. Definitely agree with that. Feel like he has some poise in the pocket too. It doesn't get flushed out too easily. He's willing to, step up and make that throw.
He might be more developed as a passer than Alabama's junior quarterback last year, Jalen Milroe, man. Like just coming in as a freshman, like right away. But he's not quite as big or athletic as Jalen. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say.
I think Jalen Miller has like 30 pounds on him or so.
Oh yeah, easily.
30 pounds of muscle. But that being said, I mean, like you mentioned, he's 6'4". He has the frame to easily put on 20 pounds of muscle. And I mean, if he's able to keep this accuracy, this arm strength, this athleticism at, 210, 215 pounds, I mean, he can make a nasty impact at the next level early on in his career, too.
Yeah. It's hard not to see the Jaden Daniels resemblance too. Just kind of obviously they're
Yeah.
both slender guys, they're both athletic guys, but just kind of how Keelan's always keeping his eyes downfield, even when he's scrambling, even when he's evading guys, and that's kind of what made Jaden Daniels so successful as a rookie.
Well, one thing that I look at too when I'm looking at high school quarterbacks are guys that are on time with their throws too. Obviously, there's times where all of your, offensive players are covered, you can't throw on time, but a lot of his throws are in rhythm. He has his three-step drop back, he, hitches, throws, and like he seems pretty on cadence, in cadence,
Yeah.
and that I think is important too. That shows that he knows the routes that everybody's running. He's trying to stay on time, and like at the next level, you have to let the route come. You have to be on time. The later you throw the ball, the more susceptible you are to kind of making those mistakes.
Yeah. And I mean, he's got plenty of time to develop physically, right? Because these days quarterbacks are trying to get more experience at the college level, and I think these NFL teams they want their quarterbacks to have started a certain number of college games in their career, right, Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, you've seen some guys who only have 1 year of experience, or 1 year of kind of being the guy, and they get drafted early on, and then I think of guys like Trey Lance, right? At a lower level school, but
Yeah.
still 1 year of production. Everybody saw flashes of potential, and then you know it didn't pan out as well as everybody wanted it to. So you're starting to see
Yeah,
a lot
even
more
landing
guys.
in a
Yeah, but I mean, even guys like Tyler Shuck, right? Like he was drafted much higher than people thought, but he has so much experience that they know what they're going to get. And so I think you're right when you say that NFL teams like the idea of getting prospects who have many years of experience. Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel, those are guys with 4, 5, 6 years of experience, and that seems to be a pretty significant selling point for GMs and NFL teams.
even Jaden himself, man,
Yeah.
he was in school forever because he started out at Arizona State and he actually played with Brandon Ayuk, and then it was years between Ayuk coming out and him coming out. So
Yep.
that kind of shows you his trajectory. And at one point, he was the guy who people were like dropping in Devi Dynasty, fantasy leagues where they were just kind of giving up on him. And then when he goes to LSU and becomes what he becomes, it's just kind of it's funny, man. But you gotta have patience with some of these kids.
Yeah, and the nice thing is though, like you were mentioning, I know you brought up Jalen Milroe, but um, Keelan Russell it seems to have the tangibles that will translate well to the next. Like he's not throwing kind of inaccurate passes. He's not throwing ducks. Like he's throwing a tight spiral, and most of them are pretty accurate. And he's hitting windows that are pretty tight while he's on the run. Like that just shows that he already has a pretty strong foundation that maybe guys like Jaden Daniels, Jalen Milroe didn't have coming into college, and they had to develop over time. Not saying that Keelan Russell wouldn't benefit from some development, over 3, 4 years at Alabama, but he has a pretty strong foundation early on, which is definitely appealing when you're looking at a team like Alabama who likes to stick with quarterbacks for 2, 3 years, right? They like to have their young guy that they stick with, and I could see him coming in and being that guy.
Yeah, you talk about tight window throws. I mean, it's all over his tape, right? I mean, these are pretty good defenses he's playing against. Texas
Yeah.
6A defenses, high level. I'm sure they made a championship run. They usually do out there in Duncanville, but
Mhm.
some pretty good defenses, man. And it's kind of resembles SEC football to a higher degree than a lot of these other high schools that kids are playing at.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You have a little bit more window into the future when you see guys play against top talent, and you can see that he's still performing at a high level. And I think, that's a big consideration for, when you're doing, analyzing prospects. It's like it's not everything, but the more that they are successful against good talent, the easier it is to predict them to be successful at the next level.
Yeah. And you could, man, if he could put on just a few pounds and a little bit of speed, I feel like with those long strides, he would be so hard to stop just from scrambling and picking up a few yards, like literally whenever he wants to.
Well, and you know, there is something valuable about being a quarterback that is a pass first quarterback, but still has athleticism to make people miss, extend plays. You know, to me, that's the combination. I want a pass first quarterback, but still a guy who has the athleticism to extend plays and make those big plays. I don't necessarily want a quarterback that the first sign of trouble, they spray out of the pocket and then they're running into a D lineman that's all the way up the field because your left tackle did his job, but now the quarterback is just running into a sack, right? So I like the fact that he is, as he's moving in the pocket or rolling out to his left or right, his eye, look, I mean right here, his eyes are just locked downfield, and he's feeling the players around him, and he's able to move, very elusively and then still make big plays. But also when he needs to tuck it, he can get those, 5, 10, 15 yards if you really need him to.
Oh, yeah. And I think that that's what you kind of want, right? You want a quarterback who's smart enough to read defenses and he's not just dropping his head with the first pressure, but he's keeping his eyes downfield.
100%.
And I think he can recognize, though, also when, hey, they're playing man, there's no quarterback spy. Let me get out here and get these easy yards. And he, like you said, he has athleticism to capitalize on those situations.